All right, and we're back with the program once again. It's Gerald Glassford coming right back at you here, and it's this weekend. It's WrestleMania 36, and in the midst of a pandemic, they are still going ahead and executing and pulling this off, albeit that it's kind of already been taped. But again, it's WrestleMania 36, almost live, coming into your living rooms this weekend. And we thought we'd go ahead and I get some great guests to come in and talk about it for today's program. And I've got two great guests indeed to talk some great pro wrestling subjects, including not only WrestleMania 36, but right after that, Dark Side of the Ring's latest two episodes on the Murder-Suicide of Chris Benoit. And there's some great guests indeed. I've got, first off, Alex Autrey, and also as well, director himself, Mike Faber. They're both of the ESO Network. You got to go ahead and check it out today on ESO Network. Just type in the ESO Network and it comes right up for you. And guys, just great to have you a part of the show.
That's right, brother. It's so good to be here. I'm telling you, we're going to take this wrestling and we're going to go all the way to the top.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I'm not doing any impressions. But I'm honored to be here. So
Sounds good. I'm glad to have both of you guys here. Want to get right into it. First off, it is WrestleMania 36 over a course of a 2-day period of time, which I'm going to be honest with you guys is a little bit more appealing to me. And hear me out here. If they go ahead and possibly research into this and maybe think about doing this in future WrestleMania installments for when it actually is live over the course of a whole weekend. You start off with NXT. You could do the NXT on Wednesday, do the Hall of Fame on Thursday, SmackDown on Friday, and then Saturday, Sunday, leave a full WrestleMania weekend. I kind of like that idea. I also kind of like the fact that you're not watching one 19-hour WrestleMania like you usually are every year, as it's become. So I want to hear your thoughts. Mike, I want to start with you first. Your thoughts on that possibility going forward. Yes, I know it's taped. I know it's regarding the terrible circumstances that we're now in, but is this something that you can see going forward for a weekend possibility for a 2-day WrestleMania in years to come?
Well, let me tell you, Gene, I could really tell. Oh, sorry about that. I had to clear my throat there. All right, Gerald. Basically, I'm thinking that we are going into a new era with wrestling. And I agree completely that I could see WrestleMania growing into, I hate to say it, almost a full week. They already do a lot of promotions the days before WrestleMania anyway. They have the wrestlers meet and greet, and they have all these different events for the public. Why not then tie wrestling into it? And I'd like the idea of having the Hall of Fame ceremony on Wednesday, then NXT on Thursday.
Well, I was thinking about flip-flopping it because NXT is their normal day. Why not just make it the NXT showcase, the NXT takeover on Wednesday, and then doing the Hall of Fame on Thursday?
Yes and no. I could see that, but making it something more special than just a regular episode and everything. And because this is WrestleMania week, this is their version of the Super Bowl, basically. And, this is what most wrestling fans look forward to for the last 30 some odd years. And it's, it's something that, for me, it's almost like an event. And it's just like, this is a stop all to get all. We do popcorn, we do pizza, we get everybody together, watch the pay-per-view. This year it's going to be a little different, obviously, but I definitely could see WWE, doing that. And then also, because there's no way any other competition could even match that.
I agree with you. And plus, there's so many different personalities. In fact, so many personalities, period, on the WWE roster. They have so many individuals that want that WrestleMania paycheck. I mean, Alex, hear me out here. I mean, you could combine that weekend into one pay-per-view and maybe one, like let's say the Saturday beforehand, the Saturday showcase being on Fox or a large network television, and then the Sunday being on the network and pay-per-view. Just different combinations of that whole 5 to 7 day period beforehand What are your thoughts on maybe continuing this process of maybe lengthening out WrestleMania so you don't have that whole burnt out feeling come the Sunday of WrestleMania?
One of the biggest problems with WrestleMania over the last couple of years is the fact that it's become a 7-hour show. And that's a huge problem that they're having. The idea of starting a show at 3 p.m. for the kickoff, 2 hours of kickoff, and then the matchup, and then the last year's WrestleMania finished on Monday because it actually finished almost 12:30 in the morning on the East Coast. So the thing is, though, is that a 2-night big event like this is not unprecedented. Wrestle Kingdom earlier this year for New Japan did 2 nights, and that was their first time. And it wound up being a huge event, topped off, obviously, with the retirement of Jushin Thunder Liger. I think overall, the WrestleMania week has become its own. It's Mardi Gras for wrestling, with everybody coming into one town, doing all of the events, but it's not just the big federation itself. You have to remember that all the independents go rolling in. Joey Janela with his spring break party. You've got, all these independents that try to go into those towns, find any place that they can put on a show.
Pretty much anybody outside of AEW, like last year's event, was doing an event in and around WrestleMania.
Right. So, because of that, I wonder if by setting, first of all, I love the idea of WrestleMania being 2 nights. I think it's a great idea because it does with, now that they are looking at other buy rate options like ESPN's streaming service, like returning to cable pay-per-views, that sort of thing.
Fight TV, Fox Network, they're also using those applications as well.
Right. So if you can get WrestleMania 2 nights at $39.99 each, it's a $70 payday, as opposed to before when they were only getting $60 for 1 night with 8 hours of wrestling. Well, 8 hours of show, about 48 minutes of wrestling, and then some bizarre bit with Braun Strowman and a 9-year-old. So I think that the idea is actually a sound one, and it's one that I think the WWE should be ready to make preparations to do on a bigger basis. The fact that they are doing it at a time when they literally needed something to counterbalance the fact that we're going to get a show with no pop
at all.
So I think making it a 2-day event, doing things like their t-shirt line, their entire WrestleMania t-shirt line is hysterical because it's all "I wasn't there," which I think is bordering on genius marketing wise. It's interesting, but I think that if 2 nights works for the WWE this year, it's going to be their standard from going forward. They have 16 matches listed for this show, which technically ties it for the most number of matches on a WrestleMania.
And it's not inconceivable that they could go even more if they do something as well set up. And going forward in the future, if they choose to do that route, they could go ahead 10 matches each day would not be out of the realm of possibility as far as being something that could still work effectively. All those people that are traveling from all around the world to visit WrestleMania each year, they're there anyways.
Right.
You might as well go ahead and try to see what you can do to capitalize upon it. But you get rid of the stigma that's attached now to WrestleMania. And as someone who has attended a couple WrestleManias back when they were a lot shorter, it's hard for me to now to go ahead through all, like you said, 7 hours. Even on the West Coast, it gets done 9:30, 10 p.m. at night. That's still after 7-8 hours of watching. That's just really hard to stay focused, hard to stay interested in what's going on. And by the time the later matches happen, you just don't have the energy to do so. So I agree that it's just something that they should look at. But Mike, I think you had one more thing you wanted to say.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I agree completely with what you're saying, Gerald. But it was like last year after the women's match was over at the end of WrestleMania, I was like exhausted. I was truly, since we're here on the East Coast, we were like, oh my God, it's done. And Judy was just like, she was upstairs already, and she was just like, oh, it's over? It's like, hun, I've been watching since 3:30 in the afternoon,
It's funny because a lot of people joke that there are actually animals on this earth that actually are born, live, and die before the end of the show. So it's just something that takes place each and every year. But I think that this might be because of necessity this year, but going forward, something they should realistically look at. And if they're trying to go ahead and corner the market, and I know they don't really care about the independents that are trying to go ahead and monopolize, get money for a great portion of the year for them by going ahead and holding events in and around WrestleMania. I know the WWE really doesn't care about them per se, but still holding events almost all weekend long, or even like you said, all week long, would just be a great way to go ahead and monopolize for the WWE for a company that sorely needs a boost of character, a boost for themselves financially, and something to go ahead and promote, because the in-ring product, well, over the course of the past few years, I know I've been listening to you guys' shows off and on, and also I'm sure you've heard mine as well, where it's like the product is not at this point in time what it used to be, but hopefully here are things that gives an opportunity to change. And one of the ways they may do it is by putting WrestleMania over a 2-night period. But go ahead.
But there's also, right now, WWE, along with a lot of other entertainment industries, are hurting. Look at what, Vince McMahon had to sell stocks, about a week and a half ago, to help keep on funding because of the bath he had to take with excess, the XFL, whatever it is, the football league he has. And because they had to cancel half their season. Yeah. And now, with no more after the 9th, they don't know when they're going to be doing live wrestling again.
Because there's now a stay-at-home order in the state of Florida.
Exactly. And almost every other state they operate in. And, this is what's going on with a lot of the wrestlers, that they're not sure after the 9th if there's going to be massive cuts of staff, because right now the WWE is so bloated with undercard people anyway and everything. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens with all this afterwards.
Absolutely. But there is WrestleMania this weekend. And like you said, it's already been taped. I'm sure the results are probably somewhere out on the internet. But Mike, I promised you I would be a good boy. So I didn't look at it. So I'm not going to go ahead and bet on it either, because I know there's all those places where you can go ahead and bet on the matches, which to me is unfathomable for something that's already been recorded. It set yourselves up for what? A lot of money being lost. But you know what? Hey, it's not my money. But I wanted to start with you, Alex. Real quick, let's just do some rundowns. In fact, Mike, you can interject as well. Saturday night, we're going to start off with the Raw Women's Championship match. Quick thoughts on Becky Lynch versus Shayna Baszler.
Baszler is an absolute monster. Getting the opportunity to see two very, very different styles going up against each other, and both of them who did go up through the developmental, really makes this one a unique match. I think it's going to be a torch pass. There's been a lot of speculation online about both Becky and Seth taking time off after this Mania, so it would not surprise me. It honestly would not surprise me to see Shayna Baszler walk in and win the match like almost immediately, like not make it competitive at all. Like think Brock Lesnar versus John Cena from a few years back.
That bad?
Yeah, and just make it completely one-sided. Have Becky lose and be eliminated to the point where she's suddenly the new beast, and only one person can stop her, and that's Ronda Rousey at SummerSlam.
Well, that's what I was thinking. Is I was hoping that this match would have been the Becky versus Ronda that we were hoping to see anyway. And because I don't feel like we got it last year.
Well, it's because they put Charlotte in for no reason.
Exactly.
And I don't know if it was because they didn't feel that Ronda was strong enough to carry it, or if they were worried that Becky wasn't strong enough to carry it.
Exactly.
Well, don't get me started on that end, because I'll just throw out why Asuka should have been kept on that push to at least a point where her and Ronda should have faced off. And, that
100% agreement. 100% agreement. Yeah.
Agree completely.
A whole keg of dynamite cake from there. But you got to tell Ronda to get off the streaming couch in order for her to go ahead and start, thinking about that possibility, because she also wants to start a family. So that's another thing right there for you. But let's go for Saturday Night Continued. That's WWE, the Universal Championship match, which is going to be Goldberg versus Braun Strowman. Obviously, a smart move, I think, for Roman Reigns to step out. WWE has not handled it properly, in my opinion, but this is Braun Strowman's opportunity. Guys, I want to hear your thoughts on it. I think it's going to be another win for Braun Strowman. I think it's finally going to give him the opportunity that he should have had 2 years ago, maybe, to go ahead and see if he can be something that the company can get behind, because Goldberg's only there for a short-term, I don't want to say short-term rental, but a short-term process, I think, at this point in time, because of his age and all the stuff else he's doing.
Goldberg for the last 20 years has been a one-dimensional wrestler.
Yeah.
And everything. He was a monster in WCW. He was one of my favorites. And I like the guy. I have friends who know the guy and everything from when he was at UGA. And basically, I think he, like you're saying, he's a fill-in. He's a name from the past, and Braun is the future and everything. And Roman stepping down, that made totally sense, because he had leukemia, and he's very, very susceptible to get corona. Your
health comes first.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it was very respectable of the WWE to let him step away and everything.
Yeah. I just wish they would have advertised it better, but then again, the fact that they taped everything so far in advance is similar to the days when WCW did it from the Disney studios. Things would change all the time and all that. Yeah, so that's another thing way back when. But that's the problems it creates when you have those sudden changes. What's going on. But Alex, your quick thoughts on Braun versus Goldberg?
Goldberg wins it.
Really?
Goldberg wins it. They want the belt. They want the tough guy passing of the torch to be Goldberg to Reigns. You'll do it at SummerSlam. They already established that you don't have to have the champion on television.
That's true. So just cannot wait for another fantastic title reign from Roman Reigns.
Yeah,
I'm so excited. Anyways, moving on to the Firefly Funhouse match between John Cena and Bray Wyatt. You can hear my excitement in that. Guys, they met before. Is this going to be turning out in a different fashion? Because once again, you have someone coming in that's obviously has other things that they're working on, i.e. John Cena waiting for the next Fast and Furious movie so he can finish filming that. But I want to go ahead and ask you your thoughts on a Firefly Funhouse match. Is this something you're going to be interested in watching, or is it going to have another, different change in outcome than what took place before on a previous WrestleMania?
So I'm curious about this. One of the good things about being able to pre-tape Mania, that it doesn't have to be live, means that we can have Hollywood style wrestling matches. And I think this one and the Undertaker AJ Styles Boneyard match, both of them scream Hollywood potential. I really do think that they could do something great with this, with multiple camera angles and things of that nature, and maybe give it, honestly, almost kind of like a Five Nights at Freddy's kind of vibe to it. And I think in the end, simply because it's part-time competitor versus full-time that they can get more out of, please, The Fiend wins.
Well, the only thing, like you said, I agree as well. The only thing is because you have to make Bray Wyatt strong, because lately, since he's lost his title, he really hasn't been much. And Mike, I agree with what Alex was saying. As long as the production values are good, because when they're not good, it looks awful for this stuff that they go ahead and really pre-tape and do it way in advance on stuff like this.
Well,
but Mike, your thoughts on the match?
This year they have two special matches that they're going for. And I think both of those have the possibility of being fantastic. Like Alex said, Hollywood style, because they had the time to build it, to film it, and to edit it. Exactly. And it doesn't have to be in front of a crowd. They can go into a haunted house. They could do anything, because you have both the Undertaker and the Fiend, both supernatural characters, bigger than life, and you could have some amazing things. And with Cena, who's probably a little rusty right now, but I think working with Bray is going to be amazing, and I think Bray could definitely shine in this one a lot.
Fair enough. Kevin Owens versus Seth Rollins. It's interesting that there's no title on the line, seeing how both have been favored for status for quite some time over the years about holding some type of title, but both are currently just feuding amongst themselves. So I want to hear your thoughts about Seth Rollins versus Kevin Owens.
Well, like you said, I think Seth's going to lose, because I heard the same thing, that him and Becky are looking to take some time off. And it would then build momentum for, basically going in. And I think Kevin needs to get a good push right now.
Alex, your thoughts?
Yeah, Kevin. So I'm a little weirded out with the idea. Monday night, they kept on talking about how Kevin Owens hasn't had his WrestleMania moment. He beat Chris Jericho at 32. But maybe because he's not there anymore, they don't want to talk about it. It's got to be Owens getting the win. Owens has become their new Steve Austin. And if they can get marketing behind him in the same vein, then we could eventually see anti-hero Kevin Owens versus corporate champion Roman Reigns, which would be a big money seller, especially with the fact that, bless him that he came back from everything, but the fans just aren't interested in Roman Reigns as champion. He sells merchandise though, so maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like for this one, yeah, it's pretty clear cut. Owens gets this one.
I have a tendency to agree with you, especially like what you were saying, Mike, as far as both Becky Lynch and Seth Rollins wanted to go ahead and work on their marriage and take a step back and take a break, and you can obviously respect them for that. Coming up next is the ladder match, although it's still listed in many sites and many accounts as being the New Day versus the Usos versus John Morrison and The Miz. I've also heard reports, which I have a tendency to believe, that because of The Miz getting sick and ill during the course of these tapings, that it was just taped as a 1-versus-1 one-up Uso versus John Morrison ladder match. So I want to hear your thoughts, either which way that works out, whether it was a single match or a tag match that was taped. Your thoughts on the match itself. And do you think a ladder match at this point in time in 2020 is going to serve the same type of things that you see on the TLC every year, or the ladder matches that have been so historically placed in WrestleMania lore previously?
I don't think the ladder matches that, for this one, I don't think they have the high flyers like they used to. I think the Usos, yes. And John Morrison, okay. But if New Day is involved, no. And everything, I miss the days when you had the Hardys and, you had, some of the Edge and Christian and stuff and, that type of stuff. I remember those really well and very fondly. And I just don't think you have the talent for it right now.
Alex, any thoughts on it?
First of all, this match should not be taking place. If both champions cannot be there, scrap the match. Put it on something else. Set something up so that's further down the line. Give us Usos versus New Day straight up, has to be a winner. That sort of thing. Put Morrison on commentary during it. Make him the special guest referee. Something like that. Something that furthers the story, but gives us something better. That said, if it's a singles ladder match and you've got one of the Usos and John Morrison, it's going to be fantastic. Because honestly, as far as one-on-one ladder matches go, the best one is still Razor versus Shawn. And one of those guys was not a high flyer.
Good point.
That's good. That's a very good point. And John Morrison in that type of match could shine, given the opportunity and all of the athletic skills he still has, and he's had for many years. So that's something to look out for.
He could just as easily have two ladders in the ring and do a Starship Pain off of them. And people will be talking about that like they talked about the Edge Spear.
True.
Well, I got 3 matches left for Saturday that are planned. Whether or not they come off or whether they add in an Andre the Giant Battle Royal for as far as for the men or the women to get more troops in there, that still remains to be seen, or any other matches that they might add last second or that they did tape last second for WrestleMania. What I have left on the card is Elias versus King Corbin.
Ugh.
Yeah, I know. Tell me about it. I heard a big. You're not the only one that's probably groaning out there. The Kabuki Warriors versus Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross for the Women's Tag Team Championship, and Daniel Bryan versus Sami Zayn for the Intercontinental Championship. So I ask you, on those 3 matches, obviously Bryan and Zayn stick out for the same reason we were talking about. Talking about Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch. I think the same thing would go for as far as the Women's Tag Team Championship match, because Kairi Sane has recently got married and indicated in her Twitter message out there that she was really looking forward to starting a family. Same thing along the lines. So that could be something as far as her out, and as far as that tag team match, as far as the Kabuki Warriors losing there.
But I've also heard that possibly she may be going back to New Japan. Her contract's
up. Absolutely. That could be a possibility as well. But yeah, her Twitter account, when she got married, she left a long statement about what she wanted for her future, and that could be a very real possibility as well. And the fact that that's another issue as far as why she would want to leave the WWE. I mean, that's touching on a whole other subject, which is maybe for another day down the road. But we won't go there. Elias versus King Corbin. It's the match I think nobody wants. It could be eventually one of the worst matches in WrestleMania history.
We like to call that the bathroom break.
Yes.
So here's the thing. It's the funniest thing. When I heard that match was getting booked and was going to be on WrestleMania, and there's another one that's on Sunday night that's kind of in the same boat. You sit there and go, okay, they're good. They deserve a spot on the card. Why is this match happening? And I hearken back to WrestleMania 3. If you take a look at that card, there are some matches on there that when you see them, you're like, why? Junkyard Dog versus Harley Race. The 6-man Little Persons match with King Kong Bundy and Hillbilly Jim. No reason for these matches to be on there. You take a look at most of WrestleMania 2, and you'll see the exact same thing. WrestleMania just seems to get some matches sometimes that make you scratch your head. I really think that they want to do a lot with King Corbin. I feel like they want to strap a rocket to him. He gets the job done because the crowd genuinely hates him. And you want to see him get his comeuppance. But I feel like, and forgive me if I'm wrong here, but weren't Elias and Corbin feuding with each other when Corbin was the constable?
Yep.
So
this is not new.
Yeah, so this is a program that's been going on for years now. And that said, last year, Corbin beat Kurt Angle. And if he beats Elias here, we could be seeing the beginning of a new streak.
Well, I'm not going to disagree with you on
no.
I'm not going to disagree with that. He's being pushed. He's always been pushed. He is the apple of someone's eye up high. Let's just put it that way. I mean, not mine, because I think he's boring as heck. And I think he's not entertaining at all. And I don't even think he's just someone that you would want to go ahead and promote if normal thinking. But the reason why the fans boo is because they just don't find him entertaining. It's clear, but be that as it may, I agree with you on King Corbin. I think they do have plans for him, and his match with Elias at WrestleMania. I think for us as fans, this is more time than we should spend on it. This is more time we're spending on it now than what should be actually spent on it. So I think at this point in time, it is going to be King Corbin. They are going to continue to push him, whether we like it or not, that remains to be seen. But the last thing before we go ahead for Saturday night is, again, Daniel Bryan versus, in a great Intercontinental Championship match versus Sami Zayn. My question to you is, do you think Sami Zayn, after all these injuries, still has it in himself to go ahead and put on a great match given the time that they would be given?
Go ahead, Alex.
If they get 20 minutes, they're going to put on match of the night.
Oh, exactly.
If they get 20 minutes, they're going to put on match of the night. But Sami Zayn has to be allowed to wrestle as Sami Zayn, not as Sami Zayn manager.
Exactly. Because Sammy is a great wrestler. He's one of the best, and wrestling against someone like Daniel Bryan, who can make anyone look good, is going to be awesome.
Yeah, his exploder suplex is awesome. That haluva kick is wonderful. He's got great skills. Yeah, he's been a bit injury prone, but you know what else? Who else was injury prone for a long time? Edge.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, there's that possibility. And Edge is first ballot Hall of Famer. He's already got a ring. So I think in this case, give them 20 minutes. Let them tell the story, and you're going to have a phenomenal match. I also figure you're not going to have a title change. I'd like to see Sami Zayn win the match.
No, and you could also get other people involved in it too. Nakamura is going to get involved somehow, I'm sure.
My hope is in the end. My hope in the end is that we wind up seeing Drew Gulak beat Sami Zayn at SummerSlam for the title.
That could be a real possibility. And
very much so.
And Daniel Bryan, he might also be taking that family route because his wife has been publicly saying that maybe it's time for him to take a break as well because of all the stuff he's been going through over the course of the past year.
And he's also indicated that he knows that his full-time schedule is coming to a close. That he'd like to become more of an attraction. But I think that's why he's been trying to elevate guys like Heath Slater and Gulak. And honestly, Gulak's shown more here than he has since he was, featured on 205.
Excellent points indeed. Once again, I'm talking to Alex Autrey and Mike Faber of the ESO Network. You know what? For everything geek, in fact, it is your station for all things geek. It is ESONetwork.com. You got to go here. You got to go there and check out all the great shows, including ours, that are going to be available right now for you at just a touch of ESONetwork.com. But guys, we've just been able to run down one night of WrestleMania. There's still one more fantabulous, and I'm creating that new word, night to go for WrestleMania, and that is Sunday night. And we're going to start off with the big match itself. I've already talked about this before with the guys from the heavyweight chumps in regards to Drew McIntyre. And if he is the answer for the WWE, I'm not sold on him, but it is a fresh look. And I think he might pull off the win for the WWE Championship versus Brock Lesnar on Sunday night.
If he looks half as good as he looked at the Royal Rumble, I think he's going to take the belt. But
go ahead. Sorry.
No. But basically, I was just going to say, Drew with the WWE doesn't have anything, any kind of like staying power. Does he have the ability to fill the stands like someone like Brock? That's what worries me and everything. I think Drew has the possibility of it. I would love to see someone like Drew be on top for a while and everything, and the WWE take a chance on new blood, because I hate that the heavyweight champion is only wrestling twice a year at the most, 3 times. That's just ridiculous.
The WWE just signed a major deal with a UK television network for their programming, for their pay-per-views, for all of that. Drew is winning this one, and Brock's helping him along. I don't know if anybody saw when they did the thing on Raw where there were 3 Claymores to Brock. Brock called the spot for the third one. It wasn't supposed to happen at all. Brock was on the ground, said, "Hit me with a third," and then hold up the belt.
Wow.
And slowly made his way up. When Brock wants to have a good match, Brock will have an amazing match. Finn Balor, AJ Styles, Daniel Bryan. And I think Drew McIntyre is going to be the icing on the cake. The question becomes, does the WWE want to go ahead and pull the trigger on it now with no crowd? Or do they want to do it in front of a massive audience?
Like a SummerSlam.
Like a SummerSlam. So my hope is, fingers crossed, we'll see it happen this weekend. Or last Tuesday when it was taped.
Exactly. Or whatever, exactly. Like you said. But it is something that looking more and more, it's looking more and more like Drew McIntyre is going to be the face of the WWE that they're going to be pushing in the short-term future. Whether or not it lasts or whether or not it will work long-term, we'll have to wait and see. But it looks like on paper that Drew McIntyre is going to be the answer, at least for now, this weekend. Boneyard match, and you guys were talking about it earlier as far as something that was set up. And again, production value has got to be the thing for me on this. It's The Undertaker versus AJ Styles. Alex, starting off with you.
One, we haven't been told what Boneyard means. Initially, some people were saying that they were going to do a buried alive match. And then with the whole coronavirus thing, they were like, yeah, let's pull this back a little bit. A boneyard is a scrap yard. It's where cars and motorcycles go to rust away. And I like that idea, especially if they're bringing back Biker Taker, which Monday night looks like very much so is happening. So I like the fact that we don't know what a boneyard match is. And I'm assuming it's going to be an anything goes kind of match in an environment like that. Taker's winning. It's fairly obvious. My fear is Michelle McCool shows up and lays down a faith breaker. If it happens, let it be on Carl Anderson. I'll be fine with that. But honestly, it's not going to happen to Luke Gallows.
You know who's getting buried even more officially is Gallows and Anderson.
Very much so. Very, very much so. But if they lose, when AJ loses, if it's because of something that was caused by the rest of the OC, it gives Styles a reason to break away. This is Undertaker at WrestleMania. It's a safe bet that UT is winning, and especially if they're bringing back Biker Taker for it.
It only makes sense that they bring back Biker Taker. He's getting too old to be the supernatural thing.
I don't know. He's closer to death than being undead.
But he moves better than he has in years. Yeah,
he's definitely taken the last year to really get himself into some kind of shape. So it'd be interesting to see. I obviously Taker can still go when he wants to and when he has to. AJ's going to be able to carry him in spots where he normally can't go. And they're both safe with each other, so should be phenomenal. Should be a great match. And again, we have the option of shooting with different angles, making it look like if it's going to be a junkyard street fight, give us those crazy angles, give us those crazy spots. So
let's run it down real quickly for the rest of the card. Edge versus Randy Orton. Mike, real quick.
Edge, definitely.
I think Alex, think Edge versus Randy Orton. Think it's all going to be about Edge.
It's going to be a great match. Orton is fantastic when it comes to the psychology in the match. Edge is going to be able to pull off some great moves. He practiced up leading up to his Royal Rumble appearance with the Revival. So I think that with that going for him, it's gonna be a great return for Edge.
Oh yeah, great.
I agree with you on that. There is going to be some type of return for Edge indeed. He wouldn't come back unless it was something otherwise planned for him like that. SmackDown's Women's Championship on the line. Bayley versus the World versus Naomi versus Lacey Evans versus Tamina and Sasha Banks. Who's going to come out the victor? I'm going to go ahead on a limb and say Sasha Banks is trying to go, they're going to try and go ahead and get her a little bit back up to speed. She was once high up on the card for the women, and I think she's going to be given another push once again.
I have to agree completely. I think it's definitely going to be Sasha. That way they're going to set up something for Bayley versus Sasha at SummerSlam.
I've got Sasha losing to Bayley, which sets everything up down the road for Bayley versus Sasha, because they did not built it up enough to go for it. And Bayley just made the big turn. So I got Bayley winning.
And do you make Sasha a face after this?
Yes, but you can even slow burn it. There could be a possibility of having Bayley knock Sasha out of the way after Sasha's hit the bank statement and go for the cover and win the match and do a slow burn building up to a heel Bayley versus a face Sasha Banks at SummerSlam.
The Raw Tag Team Championship match is going to be the Street Profits versus Angel Garza and Austin Theory, who was added in at the last second. Street Profits should win in this, but the question is now, do you really care?
Don't care.
Don't care. Love Austin Theory. I've gotten to see him wrestle live on a couple of occasions, once with Southern Honor Wrestling and once with Evolve. The WWE has a knack for causing a title change when there's been a last-minute replacement. But there's really, again, I hate to say it, there's no reason for this match.
3 more matches left on the card, and we'll go through 2 more that are really lackluster, in my opinion, that I don't think a lot of people are looking forward to. And that's Aleister Black versus Bobby Lashley and Otis versus Dolph Ziggler. Again, the pick'ems, pick who you want. Aleister Black, I think, out of all of them, is the one that they would probably want to go ahead and market the most, or at least the one that seems to be in favor the most at this point in time. But your thoughts on those real quick, guys?
Don't care.
Otis versus Dolph has the most potential to be a feel-good moment. They've been building this up since Christmas. And finally to do something where they either have Mandy Rose realize that she's been tricked and gotten screwed out of her moment with Otis, or she straight up turns on Otis and says, yep, nope, I had no interest in you. I have found myself Dolph. They become the new evil couple of wrestling and maybe get moved up and possibly able to challenge someone like Drew. And Drew and Dolph have history in the past. The problem is that Robert Roode, unable to come down from Canada. That's why this became a one-on-one instead of Dolph and Roode versus Heavy Machinery. And that's the big problem is this whole coronavirus has made things difficult all the way around.
Exactly. But yeah, I definitely agree with that about it could be the big couple, especially because you don't have Miz and Maurice anymore.
Yeah.
NXT Championship for the women is also on the line with Rhea Ripley and Charlotte Flair. Charlotte is, in my opinion, normally on the books, you would say, oh, yeah, it should be a great win for Charlotte. But this is a chance to get Rhea Ripley, the limelight. So do you think Charlotte Flair will do the honors and allow Rhea Ripley to keep that NXT Women's Championship?
Yes.
No, absolutely. I think you have an option. It's kind of weird because if Charlotte wins, it establishes NXT as not being the developmental system anymore because she'd be willing to go from Raw to NXT. But this is a torch. This is a torch passing. This is the option of making Rhea Ripley, who has been phenomenal for the last 2 years, to really be given her moment. And the fact that the first time an NXT championship is held at WrestleMania, it's not going to change hands.
Well, you could also have some kind of screw job at the end too, so neither lose.
Yeah,
true. And again, that doesn't count anything else that might have been taped, or if there were any Andre the Giant or Battle Royals for the rest of the individuals that are with WWE. Who knows? Because there are several individuals that we left out, which is amazing in and of itself, but we won't go there on that one. Once again, I'm talking to Mike Faber and also as well Alex Autrey from the ESO Network. Check out their great stuff today at esonetwork.com for all things geek. But before we head on out, The Dark Side of the Ring from Vice made available a 2-episode, well, actually it was a 2-hour episode, but also a 2-parter on YouTube on the Murder-Suicide, with a little bit of background as well on Chris Benoit. Mike, I'll head it to you first. Your thoughts on it, on a very touchy and sticky situation the WWE no longer wants any part of.
No, of course not. And I thought it was done wonderfully. I thought it was very respectful on all parties involved. I don't think it was made to look bad. I thought it was great to have Chris Jericho involved. It was great to have Chavo involved, JR involved. It was really awesome. And it really surprised me that there was no current WWE people involved with this. And it really, it shows that they totally washed their hands of the whole Chris Benoit thing. And both Alex and I, FYI, just live right outside of Atlanta. So we were here when this went down. So we saw a lot of it too. And we knew, some of us knew some of the people who were involved in this and such. And it was just, we saw all the newscasts, all the coverage, even the day it happened. It was just, a breaking news item right on the network news. It was pretty amazing.
Alex, any thoughts on it?
Yeah. As an unabashed Chris Benoit in the ring fan, I remember that whole thing just being unnerving. The news coming out, the tribute show that was done for him, and during the tribute show, people finding out that it was a murder-suicide. And then, the whole thing of, well, it must have been roid rage. And then finding out, no, it was it was multiple concussions.
Mm-hmm.
It was, so much that was just causing, his brain was like in dementia at that point. And it was just, it's heart-wrenching. A little unnerving. David Benoit in profile shots looks exactly like Chris.
Oh, very scarily so.
Which was beyond unnerving. But hearing from Nancy Sullivan's sister just put a whole nother spin on it. If people haven't seen this yet, why haven't you? It was just one of those things where it's probably the darkest moment in professional wrestling, and it didn't take place in a ring. So I mean, you put this up with Owen's fall and probably Bruiser Brody's murder in Puerto Rico as one of the most horrific things. But it clearly, you talk about those two. One was an accident. One was two adults getting into an argument. This was just horrifying. And it hurt a little to watch.
Absolutely. Although the Dark Side of the Ring is, if you're looking for nice, uplifting wrestling subjects, you're not going to get it there.
No.
They do their research. I want to give Vice credit, but it is something that is going to show a seedier, darker side, pardon the pun, for that, as far as on the professional wrestling side. So it's something that if you want to go ahead and check it out, it does go in great detail what was leading up to the horrific murder-suicide of Chris Benoit, Nancy Benoit, and their son as well. So it is, like I said, very compelling viewing. It is something that if you're a fan, you're going to watch. But they also go ahead and reflect on him beforehand, what was leading up to it, but also his talent, in which you cannot deny the talent that he had, but you also cannot deny the crimes that he committed.
No, and it's not for kids, folks. It is not for kids.
No.
At all.
Well, all right, guys. Before we head on out, just want to go ahead and catch everybody up on what's going on with ESO Network. So, Alex, before I take it away with Mike, I want to go ahead. Alex, any last thoughts on what you're up to with ESO or anything else?
I'm pleasure of being part of the team of movie reviewers for Air Station One. Me along with Ashley Pauls, we get the chance to really talk in depth about films. So throughout the summer, actually, since we have no summer movies this year, we're going to be doing some extra special episodes where we look back at favorites of ours. So that's going to be really cool. And that's going to be stuff that you can see on or listen to on the Earth Station One network in the coming weeks.
And who better to talk about the ESO network than Mike himself? Mike?
No problem. Thank you for having us on again, Gerald. We do appreciate it, man. It was a lot of fun. Earth Station One is a very proud member of the ESO network. We have 20 shows, and we're about to have our 21st show back on the network. Dr. Geek's Science Lab is returning to the network after a long hiatus. And we are, all things geek. We have shows about pretty much any topic you could think of. And, we could be found on esonetwork.com, but we also could be found on any media player that you could think of. You could even listen to the ESO Network feed on like Apple Podcasts, on Google Plus and others. And it's all our shows, even Gerald's show here on PCC. It's pretty darn awesome. And it's almost like a, smorgasbord where you could just pick the shows you want to listen to on demand. And each time, it's pretty darn awesome.
Well, you got to put, I hear what you do to my shows. You make mine like sort of, there's the dark side of the ring. There's the dark side of the ESO network. And that's where Pop Culture Cosmos is. No, I'm just kidding on that. You've been great. It's been great being part of the network.
He's going to be part of the Boneyard match. It's okay.
There you go. I'll be the one that's buried alive. That's for sure. Once again, I'm talking to Alex Autrey and Mike Faber from the ESO Network. You got to go ahead and check out anywhere you get podcasts, the ESO Network, and all the great shows that lie within, or just head over to esonetwork.com for all things geek. Guys, it's been great having you here. Thanks so much. And we ought to do this again about anything pop culture, pro wrestling, or anything else right here at the Pop Culture Cosmos.